intro music queuing up. It's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is easier from outside the cage. I'm Kevin Phillips. With me, of course, Raph Esparza. Raph, you saw 5 live.
Did you work on the rhyming there?
Yes, I did. That's why I said it so
you planned out?
specifically. I'm not typically that clever, so I was like, what rhymes with 5?
Well, yes,
And
I went to 5 Grappling.
You
and
watched
I saw
it?
live.
You saw 5 live. You know you want to say it now.
No,
Just
I
say it one
don't. I
time.
have zero
One
inclination
time.
to want to
Just
say it like
say
that.
it one time. Will you at least? Well, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk about everything that I saw. I know that you saw part of the live stream recap that they had, right?
Yes, and I could kiss people on the mouth. I won't.
Please
I'm
don't.
just saying the potential exists that I would feel so inspired to watch the entire thing today on YouTube.
Awesome.
It was awesome. It was badass. But, Raph, I also have a little surprise for you.
What's that?
Well, as you're aware, I listen to several different podcasts. I listen to several different types of MMA mediums. We have... I don't want to say that you're his nemesis because you two both sort of do that kind of boring analytical shit on my fun point, but I have one of my favorite MMA podcasters from On the Mat Radio. Paul,
Ooh.
how you doing this evening?
Fantastic. Open Mat Radio. On the Mat's a sponsor.
Oh my God. On
comment-
Oh, God. One of your favorites, Kevin. So good of you to get it right.
Open. I was listening to it for literally 4 hours at work the other day too, which is what I find comical. And I'm staring at the website, and I can still mess up the address. I
Paul,
apologize,
welcome to my
Paul.
world. This
publicly.
is what I live with day in and day out.
OpenMatRadio.com. Paul, how did you start Open Mat Radio, by the way?
It's kind of because I don't know if you guys ever listened to the Fightworks podcast that Caleb used to put out.
Yeah.
Caleb really blazed the trail, and just kind of how life happens with everybody, started taking more time off in between episodes. And myself and a couple buddies of mine, guys that I train with, Rafael Pena, Sergio, our coach's son, and also my friend Richard Heinrich, we had actually helped organize the World Pro Trials in Vegas and also in San Diego. And after that, we were kind of like, what's next? And I thought, well, Caleb's not doing much with the podcast. Why don't we try to do one of these? And those two guys jumped in and helped me out, and we're a huge part of the show. And now we're kind of retooling things. Richard's got a lot of stuff he's focusing on. Raf's down in Brazil working in the Supreme Court, and I'm kind of manning the helm.
What? I don't. Wait, stop
Wait,
there real
hold
quick.
on.
Yeah.
Supreme Court?
We do big things, sir. Yeah. So Rafael is interning in the Supreme Court of Brazil. His actually the
Is
head
this a jiu-jitsu guy too? Like he's
Yep. We're all purple belts together.
okay.
Fuchs, who is the head of the Supreme Court down in Brazil, is he's a, I guess you'd say, like uncle of ours, I suppose. We come from the same lineage. Raf's dad, Sergio Pena, is old school red and black belt, and he actually introduced Fuchs to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they both got their black belts from Osvaldo Alves. So, now he's up in the Supreme Court working hard. Raf just finished a dual degree at UNLV, one of them being political science, and is working in Brazil. He was kind of grew up in both the U.S. and Brazil, so he's down there working hard, and we'll be back end of December.
Okay, first of all, this is very confusing because you keep saying Rafael did this and worked for the Supreme Court, and it's to me, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, I'm Rafael. I am not working for the Supreme Court.
The real one.
Oh, son of a bitch! How dare you? First of all,
This is why I brought Paul, by the way. I
Pena.
brought him as an anti-Raf. That was my Thanksgiving
Don't call him
gift.
Rafael. I have that name trademarked here. Also, Kevin, shut up. But I will make a guarantee to you right now.
Yeah.
I will never leave this podcast for a sabbatical to go work for the Supreme Court. Deal?
First of all, I appreciate that, Raf. That's commitment.
Yep.
That's commitment.
What are the possibilities that you're on the other side of the bench in the court?
Pretty strong. He does write a lot. Like, writers can end up there.
One of the two of us is more likely to end up in jail. I'm going to ask you, Paul, which do you think it would be?
I think it's a coin toss, depending on the country and the offense, and I'll leave it at that.
He went the possibility of an inter-country. That was good. That's yeah, I would say it's me, only because I tend to be a little bit louder, but Open Mat Radio tends to do more analysis than just our common jokes, so we're gonna trust you on this one.
Yes, we leave the comedy to you guys, and I honestly, kind of my style is to stay out of the way of the guests and try to put them in the showcase. No one wants to listen to me, so I just try to set them up to kind of give their stories and whatnot, and let them run with it.
Wait, then why did we bring him on? This is a terrible choice.
I brought him on so he could, fight with you while I was trying to go about my own shenanigans. Yeah, I was actually listening to the Tom DeBlas episode and having a blast. And that's how you know you've reached like peak jujitsu nerdiest. You're sitting there at work kind of crunching numbers, and I had Open Mat Radio up. Knocked away 3 hours, and I was like, this is fantastic. We got to keep going.
Well, we every year we do a listener survey in probably about January, so we'll get another one going pretty soon. And I always ask one of the questions being, what episode length do people prefer? And it's a huge range. I tend to like the longer episodes. Some people don't like that and like a lot shorter ones. So we try to mix it up and throw in a long one in there and then a couple short ones, but always try to shoot for at least an hour, I'd say.
Yeah, and with podcasts, I always feel like, who gives a fuck? Make it as long as you want. Like, people can either skip forward or not listen. But that being said, I'm also the time person. Ref's probably like, oh, what? You're okay with whatever?
Well, and then it's funny because some people complain if we split an episode into two, like 1.5 hour parts, where they'd rather have one long one. But yeah, we make it work. I don't know. We put everything online and leave it on the archive just so if people want to go back and listen or whatever, they find the show at different times, that it's all up there. So
let me go ahead and see if I can summarize your point, Paul. My listeners are ingrates and have no idea what the difference is between 1 and 2 episodes. Am I summarizing that right?
I haven't said anything about your listeners. My listeners love all varieties of length of episode.
Paul, I appreciate how to the point you are always. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about 5 Grappling.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So why don't we go ahead and just discuss? You know these guys pretty well, right?
Yeah, I do. I was first turned on to 5. Man, I'm trying to think. Ricardo Amendolia, who's one of the guys that is kind of the brains behind it, I think was probably right before we started Open Mat Radio. It was when we were promoting those World Pro tournaments that Ricardo and I started to really talk and get to know each other. And since then, have done some work together on various projects. And now he's at the helm of 5. And doing some really, really cool things, some innovative things. And I've been lucky to work with him and Dan and Alberto Marchetti and Silver Fox are the referees. And we've had both of those guys on Open Mat Radio before. So, yeah, I think they're doing some really good things. And I really am trying to throw as much support behind them to find innovative ways to kind of put grappling out there. The balance is always going to be between keeping things true to the art, keeping it fun for fans, and keeping it good for fighters as well. And I think 5 is doing a pretty good job with that.
What is it specifically that you think that they're doing that's like a little bit different than some of the other tournaments that we've all kind of come to know and kind of the routine, if you would?
Well, I guess that the thing when you look at 5 is you can look at their event kind of basis, and then you can look at the bigger overall picture. And I think what they're doing is they're coming in pretty strong on both ends. They want each one of their events to be a world-class event that really is a treat for people to compete in. I think that the tournament scene is unfortunately, if I'm lucky, I live in Las Vegas, so we have tournaments coming through here all the time. Southern California is the same way. But if you're somewhere, say maybe Chicago or something like that.
Yeah.
Probably not a ton of tournaments are coming through. Maybe Grappler's Quest comes through, Naga comes through, but they know that they're going to come in once or twice a year and have a full house regardless of whether they up their game or not. And if the bathrooms are dirty and the mats suck and the refs, the opposing guy's coach, well, you deal with it because you're only going to be able to compete locally, 2 or 3 times a year. Five doesn't really want any of that to happen. They went out and got like the best referees. Alberto Marchetti and Silver Fox, Dave Karchmer are 2 of the best referees in the world. They've ref countless matches, so they help design rules that I think are pretty good for everybody. And then they train their refs to make sure everything's uniform. So from a competitor standpoint, it's going to go well. They invested a ton in technology so that their scoreboards are 4-sided, so you can see where you're at. Points-wise, whether you're in the stand, if people are in the stands, they can see. While you're grappling, you can see. Your coach sitting next to the board can see. So that stuff's important. But then when you step away from the individual events, which are going to be run really well, you end up finding out that these guys are trying to put an actual national championship together, which is unique. And I think that they're going to be dedicated. Some of the stuff I don't know if they've rolled it out completely, but you're almost going to have like your own little Facebook page within Five that you can kind of brag about, oh, I won this, trial here or this tournament there. And they're really going to be dedicated to their competitors as much as the competitors are to them. And you can see that when they're going out and sponsoring certain guys, Clark Gracie, Keenan, James, Popolo, like these guys are all wearing Five rash guards at ADCC and Copa Podio and all these other big tournaments. So Five's sticking with the guys that they think are going to be the next big stars, and I think that they've signed some pretty good names.
Yeah, they did a damn good job. It's fascinating you mentioned a few of those things that you did, because I noticed while watching the live feed, I watched it on YouTube today, so I guess not the live feed, but at several points fighters were stopping to look at the screen while they were grappling, which you don't see a lot because the ones at IBJJF are so damn hard. Even it takes like a magnifying glass and a focus to get anywhere near what the score is. So I actually love that part. I love being able to see and strategize. What specifically are some of the how do they score it?
It's pretty similar to IBJJF with the exception that they've got some different rules for 50-50. Like you can't just tilt back and forth and rack up advantages because I don't believe that they're doing advantages. I'm trying to think what else. One of the big things that a distinction should be made is on the live stream, guys are going for heel hooks a lot, and that's only going to be for I believe the expert division. So people don't need to worry about should I put my 12-year-old in? He's going to get heel hooked in the gi. It's not. So the event they actually did for the not pay-per-view, but for the live stream was kind of like a showcase event. And Five's also very big on that kind of stuff too, and giving back to the fans. So I know if you sign up, everybody gets a little prize pack of T-shirts or a bag or stuff like that. So instead of spending $80 and getting a $15 fake ninja sword that they end up selling at the end of the day anyways, you get some swag along the way. Which is cool. But yeah, they're I don't know, they're just trying to approach this like a professional sport, I guess you could say. And I think they're drawing a lot from motorsports, extreme sports, like snowboarding and stuff like that happened in those tournaments that made those successful and get onto things like ESPN and kind of emulate that. Whereas I think that IBJJF and some of the other big grappling organizations have just kind of been thinking maybe they'll look at wrestling or judo, but it's pretty much kind of just focused on their own stuff that they've always been doing. Five's kind of looking outside the box, which I think brings some kind of cool things to it.
Yeah, I loved it. And the round robin format to me is genius.
Especially
it really
for,
is.
Super fights.
Oh, without question. It lets some people, you just get to see a real wide variety, because you get to see, guys that are significantly smaller working against these larger dudes, and just seeing how people fight over the series of 5 matches with high-level guys is just so much different than just in a one-fight scenario.
Well, and with 6 minutes, you can push hard. Any of these guys that are world-class guys, like at the 5-man round robin, 6 minutes to them is going to be full, speed ahead pretty much the entire time.
And the way that they did it yesterday, a little bit about the event, Kevin, like, first of all, the rules are all made on like an Excel chart that they blew up, and we actually had some fun with that on video. But
nice.
They had X's and check marks over what is allowed and what is not allowed for the different age groups. So you could look at a chart and be like, oh, I'm 16 years old. I guess I can't heel hook. And you can go on the chart. And like they had a whole list of the rules, and so it was very well spelled out. But when you get to the actual 5-man round robin, which I know was making a lot of interest just from people who maybe don't know exactly what 5 grappling was about, if you're there in person and you're seeing these high level people competing in that setting, it just made for some really, really exciting matches. Paula, you don't have to go through all of them, but what were some of the ones that really stuck out to you in terms of the matches, be it 5-man or even some of the other stuff that you saw?
Well, I guess before we get into the 5-man, I can't say that I was like stoked to watch it, but I thought it was very cool that they did have, teams and lower belts. So they brought in kind of that vibe from the guys like Want versus Need and Jiu-Jitsu Battle. Yes. They're trying to focus on lower belts, which is very cool. And I think is a way to build stars up. So instead of just waiting for them to get to brown or black. And it's a smart move too, I think, because a lot of those guys are the more social media savvy. And if you look at Facebook, that's like Edwin was always already talking about it, and he's got a ton of followers and stuff. Yeah. So it's a good way to market, but it's also cool to follow those guys and see them kind of go through the belt.
Well, it was kind of interesting to see, like, it was a nice way to break up the round robin because there's no way tournament wise you can just be like, all right, Keenan, you just finished that one, you're back up. Oh, guess what? Submission happened. You're back up now. So it was a nice break for that. But you had a nice exposure for these people at in a championship level for blue on up, and even more terrifying, kids division,
kids super fights.
Yeah, first of all, super fights, I don't know what that means for kids, but I looked at these kids who were competing, and I was just like, oh my God, the level that they're doing is unreal. Kevin, if you saw the kids fights live, first of all, you realize that you were just talking to some of the kids and being like, hey, what's up? And they're like all friendly, and then all of a sudden they get out there and they're destroying people, and it's terrifying.
I saw some spider guard from some 10-year-olds that frightened me.
Yes.
It's like, wait, how good is that kid going to be when he's 18? Like, that's not even.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of guys think that the Gracies were, way ahead of things, but in a certain sense, they just had the opportunity more than a lot of people did to hit the mats when they were 4, 5, 6 years old.
Absolutely.
And bring it
that's
through
a
their
point that
entire
doesn't
life.
get made enough, right? That it just didn't exist here when we were kids. It really didn't.
I mean, I started 8 years ago under a guy that was a purple belt, and the first time we met a brown belt, it was my friend Andre Anderson, and I drove 2 hours basically in the snow to pick him up just to meet a real brown belt. And now you got kids like the Rotolo twins that are getting coached on the sideline by the Mendez brothers and Andre Galvao. Yep. It's like a whole different era is going to be happening from here on out.
I also love that you'll get to tell your kids in the future or any younger generation, be like, I drove through the snow to find a brown belt, and you kids just get it all.
They're spoiled. It's true. No, but it's a great thing, and it's gonna be crazy to see what these guys all end up doing later on in life. Yeah. So it'll be exciting. Getting back to the round robin, Gary Tonin, I think, is one of the most underrated guys in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, he earned some respect at this 5 grappling competition.
Yeah, I've known about Gary for a while. He was a late replacement at Ultimate Absolute 2, and everyone just kept saying, oh, this kid, wait till you see him. He's from Jersey, and he's going to go out there and go nuts. His style is so out there. And, man, Gary's absolutely fearless. I think that he catches a little bit of flack because of his whole challenge to the Meow Brothers and everything, but if you know Gary and talk to him, he's one of the most respectful guys in the world. And really, that was his way of just saying, like, hey, I want to compete against the best, and I can go against anyone and put my game up against theirs. It wasn't a disrespect thing at all. So seeing Gary go in, and he was 170 pounds. He won the Dream Tournament today, actually.
Today, yeah.
He's 170 pounds. I think Jackson and James were coming in at like 210 and up, and Gary doesn't care. He'll fight anybody. And caught James with a heel hook, which is, ridiculous because James Popolo is another extremely talented guy.
Yeah, he's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, well, and he's great with footlocks, and he trains with some of the best. And
can you talk a little bit about the transition that happened with that footlock? Because that happened mid-transition, am I right?
Well, here's the thing. Gary is very good at putting himself into spots that looks like he should be in trouble and coming out with someone else's foot or arm or neck. It's kind of crazy the spots that he gets himself into, and he readily admits that puts him at a disadvantage as far as the point game goes. Especially like when he fought Keenan. Like, he gave up a lot of points to Keenan. Yeah. But at any moment, I still would never have counted Gary out. They were scrambling. James was on a foot, and Gary is he's got this weird sixth sense to him that he knows when he's in trouble and when he's not. And even if he looks like he's in trouble, he'll still dive on something and try to take it. James's footlocks are amazing. I know he trains with Lovato and Justin Rader, and those guys, I mean, if either one of them grab your feet, it's going to be gone too. So he knows good footlocks. For him to tap to something is tough. And James, just real quick, I just want to mention everybody because he's another guy I think that is very underrated at this point. Up till now, he's been working a full-time job as a school teacher and trying to grapple at a high level. So just this past year, he is grappling full-time and he's not teaching any longer. So this is the first time we've really got to see him train like a professional. And I think
I'm going to stop you right here for just a second, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
One, great insight, as always. Two, way to ruin our exclusive interview that we had with James that we're about to post up on video. No big deal. But I get what you're trying to do here. I get that.
Did you listen to our interview with him from months ago?
Dude, here's the thing. Do you have it on video?
We don't do video. You and I both agreed that our looks don't lend themselves to video.
How dare you? My looks.
You two and I agreed to that. All three of us were in agreement.
This is between me and Paul right now. And I worked really hard to ask him a question yesterday. And I was like, James, tell me something about your game. And then he talked about something completely different that was still amazing. So what I am saying to you, Paul, is how dare you?
Hey, what can I say? And the whole thing about the looks is not that we look bad. We're too good that we crash the internets on downloads.
Yeah, people aren't prepared for it. Let's just be very clear about that.
No, but you are right. When we talked with him, it was amazing to realize that he's only just a few months into doing this for full time. That's insane.
And can I ask you two this? And this is the comparison that I keep using. And obviously, I mean, James is great, but then you watch him fight Keenan. Is Keenan sort of jiu-jitsu's version of, he sort of feels like our LeBron James. Because even when James turned up the heat, James Popolo, it just looked like Keenan wasn't even just shifted into his third or fourth gear. And I don't know how many gears he has, but it still just didn't look like Keenan felt all that terribly tested. What are your thoughts on that?
Before you answer that question, let me go ahead and tell you I apologize for Kevin's insistence on putting the NBA
references
every one of our podcasts, whether it's warranted or not. Go ahead.
Just during NBA season. I tend to not do it before, but go ahead.
Yeah, I forget that there are other sports out there. I don't know. Keenan's on a different level. He is probably got, I don't want to call it cockiness because I think it's self-confidence. And I truly think that he believes he will beat everybody in the world and set more records than like Roger Gracie or anybody. And where that belief comes from, I'm not sure where he dug in and found it, but it pays off. He's another guy very similar to Gary that he never looks worried. And no matter what position you put him in, he just knows eventually he's going to come out. So Yeah, I don't know. And when you train with guys like Galvao and Mendez brothers and JT and all these guys, you're training with the best in the world. So competition day is kind of like easy, I think.
Yeah. Just watching him, it really did. And I guess I start to believe that he's going to be setting these records too, because it just looked like, of course, he was going to win. That's just how I felt at any given point. Though that match between he and James is one of the best no-gi jiu-jitsu matches I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, it's fun, and those are both guys that it's amazing to watch both of them and Gary and Jackson, now that I think of it, and think these guys just got their black belt within the past year.
Yep.
And they're all still pretty young guys. So with less than a year
future.
experience, I mean, these guys are going to be around for a long, long time. And there's some really good rivalries that I think will kind of be showcased over the years, which I'm excited to see how each guy goes back to their respective camps and goes, all right, what am I going to do next time?
Yep.
So that's really, I think they're all going to elevate each other's game down the road, and it's going to be a matter of who stays healthy and who stays with their team, and see what happens in the future.
Ref, what was the reaction of the live crowd like during that fight?
Jubilant, ecstatic, confused at times.
Sure.
It was a pretty dynamic match. I think the best thing to see was when they essentially were rolling off the mats. It got a little heated mid-match, and just for funsies, even though the ref had kind of drawn a stop to it, Keenan decided to show James he could rear naked choke him, which ended up being exactly how the fight finished.
Mm-hmm.
So it was both excellent from an athletic standpoint, but also really, really showman-like on both of their parts, because you had James starting it off with a great takedown that looked like, for the first time, you had seen Keenan just a little unnerved, and then to have a beautiful finish just like that. It was everything you wanted in that match.
That was my favorite match. Did either of you was there anyone that topped it in your opinion?
That probably was mine as well. Jackson and Keenan have a bit of a feud for a while, so every time those guys compete, I always like watching it.
Is
Again,
this like
I think
a known feud? Do you know what this is about, or is this?
No, I just that for a long time at brown belt, Keenan was considered the best American, if not the best brown belt in the world. Probably was the best brown belt in the world for sure for the double Grand Slam. But Jackson was right there, and I know that Jackson in Brazil had crushed a lot of guys. So I know a lot of the Brazilians were kind of thinking that Jackson could take out Keenan. So to see that interplay kind of develop over the belts is interesting. And then you always got to throw a Meow brother or two in there, which always makes things interesting.
You always have to throw it in there. It's so great.
Just one or two. Yeah.
Whether you want to or not, you have to.
Yeah, you just keep one in a backpack and just unleash at any time. And they'll jump on someone's back or barren bowl their way across the mat. And
that's a terrifying thought. Just
I will say
to unleash a Meow out of a backpack and be like, sick him. It's like that's a weapon.
But I will say, like, with the Meows, Keenan, Gary, James, like, these guys are not afraid of established black belts. They will go after anybody. And I think that in the past, sometimes people get beat before they even mat and get kind of caught in awe.
Absolutely.
I know John Roberts, he really wanted to fight Leandro Lowe at the Mundials when he first got his black belt, and he got that in the first round, and Leandro, crushed him. And I have to wonder how much of that was Sean really getting outclassed at that point, because his jiu-jitsu is really on a really high level, or was it just kind of like, oh man, this is really happening? Like, this is Leandro Lowe passing my guard,
Leandro Lowe is he's one of those best guard winners from the Jiu-Jitsu Expo.
The greatest award ceremony ever.
The greatest.
If you were to give yourself a jiu-jitsu award, what would you have given yourself?
Me?
What would you have given on the mat? Radio
open something.
What was that, Kevin?
It's like can opener, mat. I think hold on, let me Google it.
What would you have given yourself, Paul?
I most likely to sneak somewhere that he should be to take pictures or get interviews.
I like how specific. That's a good one. That's
He had a drive home that he could think about it, and I'm sure he, very much like we did, were like, well, we got gypped.
Yeah, we were surprised Best MMA Comedy Podcast wasn't an award.
I think it might have been, but it was just that award ceremony was held during the tournament, which no one knew going on at that time. So you probably just missed it. And if not, I bet you announce it that you won it, and no one will challenge.
That's not a bad idea. I'm just going to put on our logo MMA Comedy Podcast Jiu-Jitsu Awards. To take it back to 5 Grappling, Paul, after seeing it in the live stream and everything, what do you think are the takeaways?
Well, as far as the stream goes, I think that making it free, there were tiny glitches on audio. The one thing that I can tell you for sure, the guys from 5, every time they do an event, and 2013 was really like a test year for them, and every time they do something, they go back and they figure out what worked so they can do more of that, and what didn't, they figure out how to change it, replace it, delete it, something like that. So I think the biggest thing about 5 is their willingness to adapt to make the fans and the athletes happy, and I think that's what's going to carry them through not just 1 year, 2 years, but I think someday they very well could rival the IBJJF. It's going to be a long road for them to get there and to get that big, but as far as providing opportunities for guys to actually like make a little bit of money, get some notoriety, get supported by an organization rather than support an organization, I think they're moving in the right direction.
I absolutely agree, by the way. And this is after watching, I've seen ADCC, seen a lot of them, and I got to tell you, everything I watched about the 5 Grappling, and you could tell that there were even some kinks, which is, I think, even more impressive, but everything I watched about that tournament, I loved. It felt like they really alleviated a lot of the issues I have with standard of jiu-jitsu, and this
let's not forget that only a few episodes ago, Kevin and I did a top 10 list about all the things wrong with ADCC, and that's supposed to be like the grand well, it was a very hard press cut. We did have some honorable mentions in there.
Yes, yeah, several. And to bring it back to Open Mat Radio, Paul, I mean this with the sincerest of compliments. It's like my favorite NPR martial arts hybrid podcast.
Well, that's a running
Open
joke.
Mat Radio. So,
yeah,
I just want to prove I know the name as many times as possible. Because the one time you don't want to screw it up is in the intro, but yeah, I misspelled my business card. What are you going to do? Sorry, go ahead. You were saying?
I don't know anymore. No, as far as the name went, like when we first came up with it, we thought like, is this too close to On the Mat? Because there's an O, but there's really... I don't know. There's an on and open.
It would be easier if they didn't sponsor, though. I feel like
it was.
I feel like it wouldn't be except
when you guys were doing a podcast at the Jiu-Jitsu Expo in their booth. Then it was like, nope, no way. We're gonna call it On the Mat, on Open Mat. What the hell's happening here?
Yeah,
it's Open Mat Radio Podcast at On the Mat's booth with everyone dancing around. It was a mouthful.
Well, I will say the whole idea of the name of the show just came. Some of the most fun we have is on Saturdays at Open Mat, just talking shit like off topic and everything. So that's what we really wanted the vibe of the podcast to kind of be, is just where it's very open, honest, and just throw it out there. So that's kind of where the name came from. And then getting to know Scotty over the years, and then him throwing his support behind us has been huge. And if anyone needs any grappling gear, please go to onthemat.com. Use code OMR20 to save 20%. So that's my quick plug for Scotty.
Well done plug, I will say. You did that plug with the ease of a man who has done a really, really good podcast.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes.
And I'm only halfway to On the Mat rate. I'm headed there for my discount. What? I'm going to buy a grappling thing. I don't know.
Well, and my other podcast with Nick from the Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood is the Journey podcast, and we keep getting a bunch of damn people that are fans of the band Journey. So apparently I need help in naming podcasts.
Wait,
go.
Are you now talking shit about Journey fans?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying they're finding us. and probably not what they think they're looking for.
I'm astounded of your ability to don't stop believing. I feel like we need to go our separate ways.
Gonna keep doing Journey references.
No, those are the only ones I know, actually.
Oh, okay.
But arm, I don't know. That's as far as I. But I'll tell you this much, Paul. It was a real travesty. You were not at 5 Grappling. So bummed we didn't get to see you over there. But we, myself and Kevin, cannot thank you enough for coming to talk a little bit about the event and also filling us in with some really, really cool insight about the actual event. We're really looking forward to what they have to offer. And there are a few people who have your kind of dexterity and analysis. So thank you so much for that, man.
Well, and thank you. The check is in the mail. You'll edit that part out, I'm assuming. That
people, yeah, I'll take that.
It's going to depend. Okay. If the check doesn't clear, then that's being edited out.
No, I really appreciate being on, and I'm glad that you guys are, putting 5 out there and showing up at the right events, seeing the right things go on, and calling people out on what's good and bad in the grappling side of things. Grappling's where we're most comfortable, and we try not to stray into the MMA world or the comedy world, which you guys have cornered both on. So, no, it's a pleasure to work with you guys, and it was fun doing the video. I thank you again for that because that was a blast. So yeah, anything I can do for you guys in the future, I'm happy to do.
Appreciate it, man.
Fantastic. And I will continue to get through my workday using Open Mat Radio. And if people haven't seen it, head over to openmatradio.com. You can find all the podcasts nicely listed as well. You can listen straight from there. And I assume you're also on, you said you guys have an application? You have an app?
We're working on one, but iTunes and Stitcher and our
iTunes is where I use. Okay, that would make the most sense. Cool. So catch them on iTunes. Paul, we really cannot tell you how much we appreciate it, and you want to throw out some Twitter handles so people can start yelling angrily suggestion about guests and different things?
Yeah, the best way is just either at Open Mat Radio on Twitter. I'm on the Facebook page. Paul at openmatradio.com for email. You can get a hold of us pretty much anywhere. And then we post on pretty much all the same forums. Raph and I think we're circling each other between different forums when you guys posted the video from the expo. So, I'm easily accessible, so anybody that wants to get a hold of me. And then I just, real quick, anyone that comes to Las Vegas, please swing by Sergio Pena's Jiu-Jitsu in Chinatown if you're looking to train. I teach a class 2 nights a week. You guys are always welcome. Tuesday and Thursday nights from 7 to 8. So anyone in Vegas, please swing by. And just thanks to you guys again, and having fun.
Perfect. Open Mat Radio. Paul, thank you so much for stopping by. Next up on the podcast, this is great. We have one of Raph and I's favorite sports journalists, just a guy that sort of does it all.
Oh, I appreciate that.
On the line, James Koh. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. This is fabulous.
You're also already earning friendship because James and I were bonding over having favorite fighters, and I thought
I've got fighter crushes, big time, dude. BJ Penn is my guy.
I thought that lost me journalistic integrity, but now I feel like there's hope. You've provided hope to a young journalist, James.
This is the thing, man. It does. I mean, journalistic integrity. You could still have that, and still have your guys. You could still have your teams. I mean, listen, if you're a beat reporter for the Boston Celtics, for example, you're telling me these guys don't become fans of the Celtics? Come on.
No lie.
Well,
great
first of all,
example,
you're talking
too,
about
especially
a
with
lesser form of
Boston.
human being and a Boston sports fan, so we'll start there.
So, yeah, no, I mean, you could be a fan and also still maintain your journalistic integrity. As a matter of fact, I interviewed John Jones.
Yeah.
I think John's a great guy. Especially after having met the guy, I think he's a great guy. But I told him right out the gates, listen, I got to ask you a couple hard questions. and and don't get up and leave. You know what I mean? Don't punch me in the face, please.
Yeah,
But,
it takes a little bit of a different stack when you're talking to MMA fighters because they're.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
this isn't talking to golfers. I mean, people get pissed.
Or even fake tough guys. Like basketball guys are such fake tough guys. I love it. I mean, there are some dudes. Okay, listen, man. Like there are some dudes. Like I interviewed Matt Barnes, right? You don't want to get on Matt Barnes' bad side. Like that. That dude will pimp slap you. He will for sure.
Yeah.
But most of the guys, most of the basketball guys are just nice dudes. So, it's like, yeah, you could joke around with them a little bit. But MMA guys, you're not 100% sure who you can mess around with and who you can't.
Well, especially if you're us, because we do jokes at most of their expenses. So while they're nodding and saying, like, yeah, you're okay, you guys are funny, you don't know if they're going to just roundhouse kick you into oblivion.
Right, or just kick you straight in the nuts. Who knows?
Yep. But here's the thing, and James, this is where I need you to help me. I'm all for having your favorites and having those crushes that you would have. How would you describe this journalistic integrity? Kevin met his man crush, who is Carlos Condit, goes up to him, cannot make words, and starts talking like a crazy human being, where he's just like, I'm Kevin.
It only took me 2 tries to get the name right. I think I was doing well.
I'm a really big fan, and we have a pod. And I'm like, "Hi, Carlos, how you doing? I'm Raph. I work with this guy. He's got a giant crush on you. It's part of our show." And Carlos is looking at me like, "Thank God one of you is sane."
Yeah. Well, hold on, James. Have you ever gotten a chance to interview BJ Penn?
Only via satellite. It was it's a rush, man. There's no question about it. Although I don't think I struggled with my name.
It's not about who's right, James. It's not that you're. There are a lot of reasons you might have nailed it a little bit quicker than I did, but I feel like I'm doing all right. So,
well,
James,
to your credit though, I didn't meet him in person, so who knows?
Hey.
If I meet the guy in person, maybe it's a different ballgame.
That's true. What do you love about covering mixed martial arts?
Well, I think the thing I love about covering sports, and it's amplified even more and magnified even more in combat sports, is that I think that in sports it's a real life pressure situation. And for me, I really, beyond sports, I am more interested in the human spirit. And I love seeing how humans react in certain pressure situations. And it tells me a lot about someone's character. It tells me a lot about what they're like as an actual person. I mean, forget about after the fight or after the game or whatever it might be. The microphones are on. The lights are on. You got 20, 30 guys all surrounding you, asking you, bombarding you with various questions. It's easy to go into a shell. But when you're in there and you're in a game, you're in the cage, you're in the boxing ring, there is none of that. You can't get into a shell. You know what I'm saying? You got to be you. And that's what I really, really like seeing about sports, and especially combat sports. You really get to see what a guy is like as a person.
And what is the weirdest or the most interesting kind of resolve or factoid or something that you found in a fighter?
For example, this is a great example of this, right? Like Kevin Gastelum. I look at Kevin Gastelum, you see him on the show, and you see his skills, you're like, okay, whatever, right? I mean, here's a guy, he's a little bit undersized, a little bit slow, doesn't look that powerful, whatever it might be. But my God, the fighting spirit that dude has is unbelievable, and that's how he wins fights. He just wants it more than you.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's awesome. I love seeing that.
He's got that swagger that John Jones honestly has, to use a comparison. He walks in the cage, and it's like, that guy is not going to lose this fight.
But you know what the difference is? But the biggest difference for me, right, is that John Jones is an unreal athlete. Yes,
True.
He's got that warrior code,
That's true.
and yes, he's got that spirit, but my God, he is an unbelievable athlete with unbelievable attributes. The reach, the speed, the skills. That's where I look at a guy like Kevin Gastelum. This dude is just getting by on just pure heart alone. I mean, not to say he doesn't have skills, okay? I mean, obviously the dude's
But
got
not
skills.
the tallest
Oh,
guy,
is that the
not the
takeaway we're
biggest
putting here?
guy,
I'm just
right?
going to go ahead and write that down. James Koh says Gastelum has no skills. Got it.
Skills.
Yep, noted.
That dude's going to find me and punch me right in the face. No, I like Kevin Gastelum a lot. Actually, the UFC asked me if I'd interview him, and I was off on vacation at the time, and man, I was actually sad about it because I really wanted to explore this side with him and really talk to him about, where the fuck does this come from?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we got to talk with him a little bit at the UFC 162 UFC Fan Expo. They brought him in the media room, and super quiet, super humble. And I'm wearing a Verbal Tap T-shirt, and we do jokes on The Ultimate Fighter. So I'm looking at him like, you're probably familiar that I've written tons of terrible jokes at your expense. But you don't care. Like, he's just like, hey, man, how you doing? No, really nice and humble. I wanted to ask where he could help out on anything. And I'm like, you don't have to help. You're talent. Talent just sits there and is awesome. So be awesome. And he gave a great interview to us. Really, really nice and really insightful.
That's fabulous.
Now, we do have to ask you this, James, okay? We're so proud to debut a segment on our podcast, and we wanted to have you do it. We want to have you be our very first guest commentator on boxing.
That's awesome. Yes,
now,
please.
Yesterday, you were watching the Pacquiao-Rios fight, were you not?
Manny Pacquiao, Brandon Rios. We actually interviewed Brandon Rios on Fox 11 show, and we were talking to him about it. And I was like a lot of boxing fans. I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew this guy's a tough kid. He's got a great uppercut. But the one question I really had for him, and it proved to be true, is how do you get inside on a guy like Manny Pacquiao, who's got great footwork, great speed, great hand speed, utilizes a good jab, and is a decent counterpuncher as well. How do you get inside on a dude like that and then force your way inside? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he just said, listen, I just go and do that. And to me, I thought I get it. One way to fight, and that's the way you're going to do it. But when I heard that, I did get a little worried for Brandon because I really, after having met him, really liked the guy. Super nice kid, very respectful. And I was very excited that he got the opportunity to fight Pac-Man. But to me, it kind of just showed me that maybe he doesn't necessarily have a game plan in place to get inside. And that's what he really needed to do, and he never did, and that's why he got shut out.
Now, I didn't get a chance to actually see the fight yesterday. What was it about Manny that was so decisive and that led to his win yesterday?
Well, I think he was just peppering Brandon with shots, If you were to ask me what the bigger picture is, because, again, Brandon Rios, great dude, great fighter, mm-hmm. But as has been mentioned in the past, and especially after the fight, Manny Pacquiao is just in a different class. I mean, there's no. I don't think you should be ashamed of that. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, are some of the all-time greats. If you're not in there, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? But that being said, I think the bigger picture and the overarching view of the fight is, okay, everyone wants to know what's next for Manny. Is he back? Is he not back? I mean, we're talking about a dude that got just absolutely obliterated. I mean, one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen to Juan Manuel Marquez. Mm-hmm. And so, did he the way I scored the fight, I had all 12 rounds to Manny Pacquiao. Mm. That being said, I also think I don't think he's ever going to get back to that sandstorm of a fighter that we saw, where he would just absolutely consume you with punches and you were going down. I don't think we're going to see that again.
I do have a Pacquiao question for you, James, that I think I'm not going to ask you about him and Merriweather as a fight, but can I ask you why the world, because the first thing I saw after Pacquiao wins this fight, which I thought was a really impressive comeback story for him, to come back after a loss and dominate the way he did, but all I saw was Pacquiao still eyes Merriweather. You tell me why it seems like they're so obsessed with that storyline that dominated the news media even directly after the Pacquiao win and the Pacquiao comeback, which I thought was more compelling. Why did they still focus on the Merriweather stuff?
Well, the Mayweather stuff, I mean, listen, again, it's always about once something is completed, you're always looking forward. I mean, hell, anytime a champion fights in the UFC, everyone wants to know who's next. In the post-fight press conference, it's not, I mean, it's not so much, oh, hey, how'd you get by that dude, or what happened in that fight. Yeah, those questions, you know, you might have a few of those, but for anyone who's actually attended one of these post-fight press conferences, there's maybe like 3 questions about that and about 10 about who's next.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly what happened with Manny Pacquiao. Of course, when you're talking about a guy like Mayweather, if they were to fight, I'll just go ahead and I'll tell you guys first. I haven't really let it be known publicly at all, but I think Pac-Man would just get obliterated. I do. I think it's a bad stylistic matchup. And maybe in 5 years, if you were to talk to me 5 years ago, yeah, give me Manny Pacquiao. He'd win on points. I don't think he'd necessarily damage Mayweather, but I wouldn't have seen Mayweather being able to mount enough offense to overcome, whenever I look at Pac-Man in his prime, I literally saw him as a storm, you know, and Jim Lampley has called him that as well. I just don't think Mayweather would have overcome the storm that was Manny Pacquiao. Now, forget about it. I mean, it wouldn't even be close. I would actually say, if Mayweather wanted to, which he probably wouldn't because he's the safest fighter in the world, maybe next to GSP, but
careful
bombs for us.
I know.
I was going to say careful.
I wouldn't say this out loud, but I'm going
to.
If this podcast get picked up in Canada, I think I'll be fine.
You should be fine. No one's more cautious than GSP, though. I think GSP's your biggest rival there with that comment. He's gonna be like,
do we have exclusive ability to talk to GSP right now?
We typically can't ask GSP questions like, GSP, if you were here, would you take offense that anyone is more cautious than you?
I do not know who this Jimmy Koh is.
James. It's James Koh.
No. In Canada, we refer to James as Jimmy.
Okay.
He is a guy who I know hosts a show with The Truth, Vera Brandon.
Yeah, fellow jiu-jitsu guy. Nice job, GSP, coming in with a dynamite drop.
So I asked you, Jimmy Koh?
Yes, Mr. St. Pierre.
Okay, I need you to tell me right now, how come you know like GSP fights?
I'd like to ask you a question. How is it that you have a plural as a first name? You're not just one George, you're Georges.
Oh, that's very funny because Jimmy Koh, I tell you many things. First thing I tell you, in Canada, the S is silent.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay,
silent.
very important.
Just like the E in silent.
Number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, answer GSP question.
GSP gets very sensitive. James,
I got you. Okay.
Pissy.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes. I've seen many of your fights, Mr. St. Pierre. I remember you coming up and dominating, slapping an armbar on Matt Hughes was maybe one of the most exciting things I've ever seen.
GSP was very good in that fight. Yes.
Yes. But shortly after that, I believe it was after the Matt Serra loss, GSP decided to, Mr. St. Pierre, all due respect, it seemed as if you did not want to get punched ever again.
You've lost your nerve, GSP. We've talked about this.
Right now, Jimmy Koh, I am so angry. I would like to have this conversation hashed out, but I just cannot finish it. So I am going to leave. GSP out.
That's how GSP leaves us. He never leaves us with like a definitive moment. It's always hard to tell, and you have to ask the judges.
Well, it's that sounds like it's that's right in his MO. I mean, that's exactly what happened after his last fight against Johnny Hendricks. That's really very confusing.
What just happened there?
Hey, Raph, glad you're back. I'm sorry, back. GSP cut in and magically did that thing where he dumps you.
That's good. Yeah.
It's a high quality production.
Oh, fabulous! James. No, but listen. Getting back to the topic at hand, Manny Pacquiao. I just think he'd get run over by by Mayweather, and that's a fight I think that he probably shouldn't take. The reason people want to see that fight, though, you've got two guys in the same weight class that are polar opposites of each other. One guy's an extremely safe fighter, and one guy just goes out there and literally wants to put on a good show. He doesn't care about his own safety. He just wants to make sure he's going to throw as many damaging strikes as possible. And
Absolutely.
so that's what, one guy's really offensive, one guy's really defensive. I mean, it's a match made in heaven, you know? How could you not want to see that fight?
Well, you're kind of
I'll tell you
talking me
this
into
way.
it now.
Yeah,
No.
and the whole thing is like I've wanted to see it for so long that I think I just have decided to stop being so excited about it until it just happens. I don't like talking about a fight like that for so long.
You know what it's like?
That you just get so worked up about
it. And this is going to make a lot of sense to a lot of your listeners. Do you remember Chuck Liddell, Wanderlei Silva?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
When they were both at their peak, I mean, the clamor to get these guys in a cage or a ring and for them to fight was just out of control. Of control. But when they finally did fight, both guys were past their prime, and it wasn't nearly as fun.
Yeah, no,
it was still a special moment. It was still a special moment for the UFC. There's no question about it. But I mean, come on, let's be real. Let's be honest here. It was not nearly as much of a draw as it could have been if they had taken that fight 3 years prior.
Yep, and that's the truth, and it's the hardest thing to swallow, I think, because they were even building it as like, this is kind of like Pride versus the UFC, right?
Kind of.
Yeah, right. Like you'll accept it. Yeah, take it.
Yeah, why not? Let's just see what happens. I mean, but I mean, really though, I mean, it would have just been an absolute shit show if they got together and fought 3 years prior to that. Can you imagine?
That would have been awesome. Vanderlei at his most murdery. That would have been great.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
It's a great way of putting it, Kevin.
And if our Verbal Tap fans are thinking, wow, James both talked about boxing and made a great MMA reference, he has an Emmy before you try this at home. I'm just saying the man is trained.
Yeah.
I've got 4 of them, pal. Don't shortchange me, bud.
He's got 4 of them. Excuse me. I was just putting you in that category. But the official count is 4, and let it be known.
For those playing the home game, if you had 4, take a drink right now. If you're wondering how many Emmys James has. Now, James...
or how scared Kevin could get while reciting someone's
fair.
resume. That's also up there.
We're talking with a professional journalist, so your schlock tricks aren't going to work here.
Let's just be excited I got my name right this time.
It's true, you
know?
did. Kevin has
Come
some
on.
problems with guest names and their affiliations. It's one of his weaknesses. And spelling.
One of
Kevin
many.
has many weaknesses. But, James, we want to transition to talking a little bit about Cage Talk. Talk to our viewers.
Yes.
Tell us about this show and why it's so awesome.
As far as I know, why it's so awesome, I don't know, man. Listen, it's a show about the UFC. It's on local news, okay? I mean, let's be serious here. There's not that many local outlets
I'm so jealous.
that put on a show like this. You know, yes, you could watch UFC Tonight. They've got an awesome show. I'm not saying that they don't. They've got a fabulous show. But you know, again, it's their take on it. I have my take on it. You know, I've got, you know, you mentioned Brandon Vera, a fabulous analyst. He's a guest analyst on the show. The guy that I've really been working closely with over the past, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 months or so, has been Brendan Schaub. And Brendan Schaub, if you've never seen him break down a fight and talk about a fight, I mean, you're really missing out. I mean, the guy is just unfreaking believable, talking about the sport in an intelligent manner. So, and a really fun guy to be around as well. So, and when we get together, honestly, it's just like we're broing it up, and it's just kind of stupid. But anyways, but no, I mean, it's like, listen, people say, well, hey, listen, don't they already have a show on that? I'm like, how stupid of a critique can that possibly be? How many NFL shows do we have out there? Are we really worried about having another show? You know what I mean? Just, come on, it makes no sense, you know. So yeah, the UFC Tonight, fabulous show. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you watch it. But I also have my show, which is called Cage Talk. A lot of times we bring in Brendan Schaub or Brandon Vera or various other fighters as well.
Was it a rule that you had to just get Brandons to be analysts?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Because that was very limiting, James. If that is a rule.
You know what, man? It's for all these guys. I love working with a lot of these. Well, first of all, my very first show. You want to talk about lineup, man? My very first Cage Talk show. I had Tito Ortiz, I had Jason Mayhem Miller, and I had Nam Fan. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You want to talk about? I was stumbling and bumbling all over the place. I couldn't get words out, man. It was silly because I'm like, I can't believe I'm sitting on a panel here.
Yeah.
With all of these great fighters. It was cool.
Now, the thing that's really cool about it is it happens like immediately when Fox will throw. So
yes.
As soon as the UFC on Fox finishes, your show comes on, which normally I get really sad because when the UFC ends, you're kind of like, well, all right, I guess it's time to do something else. And I remember the first time I saw your show pop up, I go, more UFC talk? Yes, please. Let's keep talking about it forever.
That's what we're going for.
Passion about it. That's why it's so great to watch your show that comes on directly after this, because you are asking all of the questions that I think that people are themselves wondering. That's so cool and unique.
Man, I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, honestly, I'm a big fan of the sport. I've been following it a long time. And for me, and at the same time, I do have that journalistic background as well. So, I do try to kind of bring in a lot of information into people's homes when you're watching my show. If you were to ask me what's different about my show versus other MMA shows or podcasts or whatever,
and I'm about to, so go right ahead.
The major thing is I really try to be informative. And, of course, you want to be informative in an intelligent and in an entertaining way, and that's kind of how I approach the show. I was once asked.
Ooh, it's not really our bag here.
You have said two words that we frown upon here at Verbal Tap Podcast, but we're gonna let it go because it's you, James. This is you.
Well, man, people have asked me like, "Hey, how technical do you guys figure out how to get into the show?" I'm like, "Shit, I don't know. I just do whatever I find is interesting, and if people don't like it, then they don't like. They could go turn the damn channel, as far as I'm concerned. But if I find it entertaining, then that's all that matters. I mean, and that's the beauty of having your own show.
Yeah.
Screw the haters, man. Screw the haters.
Yeah, no kidding.
Kevin and I will routinely look at each other and just go like, "Did you like that?" I did. Screw these listeners. James, can I ask you something? So,
sure.
Kevin isn't lucky enough to get to see the local Fox affiliate here. Are you guys like simulcasting on the web? Where can other people see like clips or stuff from it if they're not in Los Angeles?
You can get a lot of clips online. We will simulcast it on, and the website is myfoxla.com. And I will also pull a lot of these clips. If you want to see a lot of the interviews I've done, just go to YouTube, search for myfoxla.com.
Okay.
And a lot of my interviews will be on there. And so, I've sat down with everybody from Dana White to John Jones to I had Anderson Silva's manager on. So I did an interview with Cub Swanson. So I mean, it's been there's a lot of folks that I try to come down and sit down and talk to and talk about different things. But yeah, if you want to see those clips, those are all online.
Beautiful. I think it's such a treat because I know that we want to try and get other people to see maybe who don't have the luxury of being able to see the UFC get thrown to this local Los Angeles affiliate out here. But we want to try and get people to see what it is that you guys are doing because it's such good stuff. And like you said, it is a good alternative to UFC Tonight and all those other programs that we see on there.
Suggestion one is just move to
again,
LA.
it's just a different take on what you just saw.
And Kevin, were you saying you had a suggestion?
Oh, just move to LA. I mean, that seems like the obvious answer, doesn't it?
Wow, Kevin, what a problem solver you are.
I know. For the one that lives in DC.
It's like the person who can't figure out how to use the internet. They're just like, hold on, I don't know how to do this. So
how's that weather out in DC, pal?
I don't want to talk about it. It's like James, it's in the teens. It's bad.
Just in LA like 2 weeks ago, and he was already expressing all of the emotions about our weather.
That is so funny. I saw that Baltimore Ravens game today. I'm like, wow, really? Okay. I look out my window. It's 70 degrees outside. It's awesome.
I love it.
It's great, James. You guys go ahead with the interview.
You.
I'm just going to start crying for a few minutes. You guys enjoy.
Kevin's going to go cry in the corner, and he does that.
Well, I'm going to go to my car and turn on the air conditioner because it's pretty warm out here.
If anybody had any question about your smack talk ability matching your sports knowledge, I think they go hand in hand.
I was going to say, I guess we're not leaving the comedy to us tonight. I appreciate your welcome,
Sorry.
James.
Don't worry, Kev. In a few minutes, James is going to bust out some cue cards and do a monologue.
He's going to do 5 to 10 on why we're not good at this.
The comedy
I'm
stylings of
stoked.
James Koh, everybody.
Oh, boy.
4-time Emmy Award winner, 3-time joke teller. Let me tell you this real quick, James. We are so happy you were able to come on the show. This obviously isn't going to be the only time we'll have you on. You have an invitation to come back. Obviously, we'll definitely bring you on, not just to talk about boxing, but also more UFC stuff. Just because we like what you do, and maybe since I'm out here, you and I can get together and do a video or something that's kind of nonsensical.
Yeah, man, I'm all about it. Anytime, any place, man. I'm all about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great moment for Verbal Tap. We had James Koh on the show. Thank you so much, James.
All right, thanks, guys.
Hey, Verbal Tapanites. We're going to work on a better catchphrase for people listening to the show. Hey, if you're listening on iTunes, go ahead and leave us a little review over there in the comments section. And please follow us on Twitter at VerbalTapCast. Let us know what you want to hear on the show. Verbal Tap listeners, we absolutely couldn't review this most recent episode where we finally get to the semifinalist of the guys without the very own Davey Grant on the line to listen to the Ultimate Fighter review. How are you doing this evening, Davey?
Hi, I'm good. Nice to speak to you.
We are stoked you were here. And for what it's worth, both Raph and I had you beating Gutierrez anyway, so I feel like he just saved himself some punches.
All right, well, thanks for that. Thanks. Appreciate the confidence.
We do like to, Raph's going to do his 1 minute review. 1 minute loose. Sometimes it runs 1:15. Just
always,
occasionally.
Yeah, always very, very, 1 minute, 1 second is usually what it runs.
But, Davey, it's important to note you're a fighter. So if you feel the need at any point to lash out and strike Raph or punch him, I can give you his address. If you feel the need to work some ground game, that's no problem.
Do me a favor. He's actually in Los Angeles, so I don't really feel the need
perfect. That's perfect. So you guys are in the same city. No, this is easy, Raph. That way, if he has a grievance, he can just come beat the hell out of you in person. That's no problem.
We'll see how it goes.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't a no.
Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is a 1 minute review of The Ultimate Fighter. And here we go.
Previously on The Ultimate Fighter. See that fucking door over there? That's the fucking door you go out of right now. Have a good fucking day. Gives Anthony Gutierrez a free ride to the semifinals. Foreshadowing. Coach Ronda loves to party, and Anthony pinky swears to Ronda that he'll make weight. Davey Grant submitted Louis Facette, and now Davey takes on Anthony, who will survive to fight Chris Holdsworth at the finale. The Ultimate Fighter. Holy shit, there's a puppy in the house, and it's adorable. Coach Ronda is back to give some Armenian barbecue, and Davey notices that Anthony isn't eating very healthy. I saw you eating, as well as me, but I don't really care. Whoever he does makes no difference to me. And Anthony understands that some people think he has an easy road to the semis because Cody missed weight. So he plans to learn from that mistake by eating all of the Armenian barbecue he possibly can, saying, it's not his fault that he didn't make weight, bro. I mean, he was doing his job, and he made weight, and Cody did. It's not his problem, right? It's one of those things where...
Raph,
what?
Raph, are you eating while you're doing the Ultimate Fighter review?
Yeah, man. I can use as much food as I want.
Come on. I think I see what you're doing here, but it didn't work out well the first time. Stop eating while you're doing the review.
Why? I have the best cardio for the Ultimate Fighter in the entire house.
That doesn't matter here. You've got to get through it while speaking. You have to get through the thing.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah, without eating, please. Okay.
Manny then lays into people who can't make weight on the show, saying if you can't make it, then give other people a chance. Ron decides that the best way to be fair about having two guys from her own team fight is to stay out of it altogether. Who wants to take odds on favorite if she cried about it or not? So the guys then have to be teammates as their new coaches. And Ronda teaches everyone her armbar. tells her team she doesn't care who sees it. She'll get it on people no matter what. After the commercial, Dana makes Ronda and Misha compete in the American Gladiators Eliminator for the Coaches Challenge. Dana tells the team members to have some complimentary Miller Lite and drink Nas. And they're off. Ronda and Misha are going toe-to-toe, and it's a close race. They're climbing, and they're almost to the top, and Ronda makes it to the bell just a second before Misha extends the middle finger and says, "Fuck you, bitch." Teammates alike reaffirm for the millionth time that their rivalry is real. Also real, the amount of boredom we are in hearing that their rivalry is real. Dana then hands Ronda a stack of cash she probably got from some Teamsters who did a thing for him real quick behind the scenes. Later, back at the house, Anthony decides to keep eating again, despite a subtle plead from Josh Hill. Anthony tells us he eats whatever he wants, and he doesn't like it when people say that he is eating badly, like when he is eating 10 gallons of mayonnaise on a sandwich, saying that those in the house who judge him are just jealous because he enjoys his life and that he lives and fights like a professional. During a training session, Dana says that he looks like he's got everything on Anthony, but what he really looks like is a professional stalker as he watches Anthony's every move. He punches a lot like this, but, he's not as strong as me. And Anthony gets on the scale, and it says 151. Ronda gives him a lecture, and Anthony just nods his head, foreshadowing. Anthony just wants people to show up and mind their own business. He has the best cardio in the house. Back at the house, Holdsworth finds out the best-kept secret of the season. Davey Grant used to be a DJ. DJ Davey G. Jesus, I hope he wins this fight just so he doesn't have to use that nickname anymore. During practice, Ronda and Davey have a smile-off while talking about his kids. So, he's got to get out there and try his hardest, for them. And Jessamine breaks down the fight for all of us. Y'all, Anthony is like a spaz, and Davey is like really, really tough, y'all. It's going to be a good fight. And Anthony tells us he's trying to cut weight and spend some time in the hot tub. On the morning of weigh-ins, Anthony comes in at 145.5, foreshadowing. With 4 hours before the weigh-ins, the guys have a laugh that they're using Cody's Epsom salt to help cut weight in the bathtub. Nothing can go wrong, right? And Rondo catches wind of the situation and goes back to check in on Anthony, who asks her not to hover for a while. Back in the locker room, everyone has a story of what weight Anthony went to bed at and then came back in at. Shayna tells us that Anthony had a Nas energy drink on his way to the weigh-ins. What a great time for a promotional advertisement. Want to not make weight? Drink Nas. And for some strange reason, Anthony's light power walk on the treadmill doesn't help him cut weight. Shame. Must be that best cardio in the house that's keeping him all held back. As the deadline gets closer, Ronda has to deal with Anthony, who keeps talking and breaking as the time gets shorter and shorter, but Ronda knows that Anthony won't quit. Foreshadowing. Weigh-ins. With all the intentions on Anthony's weight cut, no one is there to make fun of Davies' Marvel Comics underwear. The weigh-in result is Anthony is 140. Yikes. He has 4 pounds to lose in an hour. Manny is furious, and nobody can get straight what weight Anthony was actually at any point during the day. He told me in the hot tub he was 142. Yeah, well, he told me he was 140 before scarfing down some Cheetos. Yeah, well, he told me that he was just fat and he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, we all get it. Oh, no, Anthony's running out of the sauna and crashes in the bathroom. Then Rhonda and Edmund leave him alone, and nothing bad can happen when Rhonda and Edmund leave him alone, right? Anthony opens up the door for Manny, naked, finally telling Manny, I woke up at 141, and I've been eating really bad shit, man. I messed up really bad. And Anthony then says he can't do it, especially after he just drank the bathwater. Yikes, that's really gross. Right before his meeting with Dana, Manny then lays into Anthony, telling him he should be ashamed of himself. Anthony doesn't disagree. Dana signals for Anthony to come out of the room for a Dana meeting in front of the entire cast. Dana reminds Anthony, you didn't even have to fucking fight. You're one fucking fight away from the finale. This is the fucking craziest one ever. And ends with the coldest leave to Anthony in Ultimate Fighter history. Davey's broken up about it and starts crying. He wanted to prove he was the ultimate fighter. This is me dream. Well, cool. Your dream is to actually still be in the final. You're fine. Rhonda, then probably remembering all the shit she talked about Misha during that whole Cody fiasco, goes to apologize to Dana by offering to make weight for him, just to prove it's a mental thing that can be done. Wait, I'm sorry. Did Rhonda just volunteer as tribute? Dana says Anthony should get a real fucking job and make MMA his fucking hobby. But Dana promises, next week there's going to be a fucking fight, you assholes. And next week on The Ultimate Fighter, Raquel takes on Jessica. But who will be healthy enough to win the customized Harley Davidson and take on their final person, which is going to be that one person who's fighting? Who cares? Find out next week on The Ultimate Fighter!
Yay! Davey, was that how it went?
I was going to put it down pretty good there. Yeah, it was slightly longer than a minute, but very informative.
It's very informative. It's the best compliment I've ever gotten on this podcast.
I was going to say, that might be punctuating it the best. Davey, is that roughly how it looked? Talk to us about how it was from your angle.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not quite the same, you know what I mean? But I found it funny.
And when was the first time? I actually am curious because, as we know now, he obviously didn't make weight. Were people in your ear before that? Did you have any idea going into the weigh-in that he was in some trouble?
No, not at all. I mean, I thought he was going to make weight. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought obviously he was struggling because I was sat ready to weigh in. I knew I was on weight because I did my weight at the house and he did it at the gym. So I knew I was on weight, so I went there and I just sat on the bleachers and I thought, he must have been struggling because he's only just got out of the sauna to jump on the scales. But I thought he was going to make it, and then when he jumped on, he was like 4 pounds over, I think it was. I was like, what the fuck? Oh, and I was just so pissed off because I didn't know anything about it. No.
And can I ask about this? Because yes, you were crying, and I get it from the perspective of that does suck. Can you talk us a little bit about like the emotions that you were going through? Because I feel like you had all of the emotions in those 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, look at again. I mean, I'd just made weight as well, so I was very emotional anyway. I mean, you put your body through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So my emotions were running high anyway. And then all it was is I was just devastated at first because I did not want to be the guy who got to the final. I don't want to be remembered as the guy who got to the final by forfeit, the only person that ever happened. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
I dreamt about that moment thousands of times. To get to the Ultimate Fighter finale and to get there by forfeit, it was just devastating. You know what I mean? I trained my ass off, and I really wanted to go and prove it. And I felt like I was getting cheated out of a fight because I'd fought in the same place like twice already in 5 weeks, and I was just, and also on top of that, I was already trained with the lad who I was going to fight, and I was thinking, this is the most comfortable I've ever gone into a fight. I can't wait to show the world what I can do, and then I just felt as if it all got took away from us. So, I mean, I was so disappointed, and it was hard. It was hard to take.
I mean, that had to be super difficult to be in that moment and to really process all of those things. Did you have a moment where you just looked around at everybody in the room and just go, who wants to fight? Like, let's just fight right now. Is that where you were at, or were you just, because the look that you had at Anthony was cutting that you shot at him.
Yeah, you looked pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I was. I was never thinking my food because it took something away from it, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I felt like that was my chance to show the world what I could do. But then in hindsight, when I look back, I was more thinking, oh, well, look, how can I get angry? I'm one step closer to the dream now, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And everyone was saying, look, you're closer to winning that contract now, and then it came down to the kids. I was just started thinking about the kids. Do you know what I mean? But it was just hard. It didn't feel real that I was in the finale without earning it. Do you know what I mean? So it was hard to be happy about it. But in the end, when I came to terms with it, I realised that I was one step closer to my dream.
That's fantastic. And as you're going through the whirlwind of emotions, how quickly were you able to get over it and start saying, well, now it's time to start training for Holdsworth?
I mean, as soon as I found out that Holdsworth was in the Holdsworth was the person I was going to be fighting. Because see, me and Anthony, we were. This was the day before.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't really find out who I was going to be fighting. All I knew that I was in the finale, and I didn't know if I was going to be fighting Mike or Holdsworth. And then when Holdsworth beat Mike, that's when it sort of sunk in. Right, I had an opponent in front of us, and I was able to focus and concentrate straight away.
Very cool.
Now, tell us a little bit. We know a little bit about your narrative how you got to mixed martial arts, but tell us a little bit more about that. Like, tell us a little bit more about your story that we didn't get to hear on The Ultimate Fighter.
I mean, like, I started doing martial arts when I was like 14. I started doing MMA. I was just going to the kickboxing club with my dad just to get fit, really. Me and my dad just used to do it together when I was like 14 years old, and there were some guys there who used to like roll around on the floor. And I was like, oh, that looks all right. I'll go with that. And then I sort of got into it, and I really enjoyed it, and it turned out I was pretty good at it. I was like tapping out people who have been doing it a while and stuff like that. So I ended up having my first amateur fight when I was 15 years old, back in like 2002. And this was when it was unheard of. No one even knew what like MMA was back then. We didn't even call it MMA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then what happened is I just went when I went through my teenage years. I just stopped training, and I was just more wanting to go out and party and try and get girls. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, you mean your DJ Davey Grant? Dave?
Yeah, this is your DJ years.
Yeah. Yeah, that was why. I was DJing. I was going out to the clubs. I was, you know what I mean? I was enjoying life. You know, like any normal teenager. And then when I was a bit older, how always happened. It was weird. Because all my friends started watching the UFC and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I used to do some of this. And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll do some training. I'll go and have a fight somewhere so we can all go and watch, and then we can all go out for a good night afterwards. Like that was why I went back and started doing it. I thought I'll do some training. I thought I'll show me mates that I can do this. You know what I mean? Because I think they were all laughing at us at first. Because I'm a really nice guy, and no one has us down as a fighter. You know what I mean? So everyone was like, "You can't fight." I was like, "No, I'll show you. I'll prove it." You know? So I went and I did the training, and I got in the cage, and I won, and then I enjoyed it, and just kept on doing it, and then just kept on winning, and then ended up making a career out of it. So it was pretty crazy how it happened.
And I would like to go on record as saying you are maybe the most smiley member of the gang, because you're always smiling in the show. Whether it's talking about fighting or how excited you are, and it makes me wonder, are you going to kill somebody? Like, you're that smiley.
No, I'm not always like that. You know what I mean? Roxanne was more smiley than me. I was like the second smiliest person. But I don't know. I think I was really lucky with the people in the house where I just sort of got on with everyone. There was no one who upset me except Anthony. Anthony was starting to piss us off a little bit towards the end, and then obviously at the end he really pissed us off. And that was the only time that I really got angry at all during the show, you know. So I think I was just really lucky. But yeah, I'm still being moody. I mean, if you ask me fiance, I think she'll say it a bit different, you know what I mean? Especially when I'm dieting. I couldn't wait. You don't see a smile and that often.
So, now that you've been through the show, what have been some big changes you've noticed in sort of your mixed martial arts career post Ultimate Fighter?
Well, like in my career, like what do you mean, like in my fighting style, or do you mean like just in my normal life?
I more mean like fandom. Do people sort of come up to you in a different way now that you've been on the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, it's really nice, you know. Like getting, I mean, I got noticed today when I was just out running along there. There was some young kid come over and wanted a photo. He was only about 13 or 14. He wanted a photo and an autograph. And it feels really good, you know what I mean? I'm really humbled by it. It's nice to have people who are fans, you know. It's good. It feels good. And I went to a few weeks back. Me and Mike Wooden off the show. We both got our girls and went to the UFC. And everyone there was a fight fan, so like nearly all of them recognised you, and I was signing things and getting photos and stuff, and I felt like a little celebrity. You know what I mean? It was
that's
nice.
Awesome. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, what can you say about your experience coaching with Rhonda? Because I do like your relationship. I thought you guys had a really good dynamic. What do you think that you learned from there, and what are some of the best takeaways that you had just from that experience with her?
Oh, honestly, it was brilliant. Honestly, Rhonda and all the coaching stuff. I mean, I'm actually staying in Rhonda's house right now. You know, we've been out together today. She's brilliant, and she's such a great person. And I'm so pleased that I ended up on her team. And the coaching staff were awesome with us. They weren't trying to force anything on us. They knew how big this opportunity was, and they knew that there was no point in them coming in and teaching us all these techniques. I know Ronda, she's got like thousands of techniques that she could have taught us. You know what I mean? But she knew that we couldn't take them into the fight, so she was like, right, what would you usually be doing this far out from a fight? Anything we felt comfortable with, if there was things we wanted to do in the training sessions, we would work around it. If we just wanted to concentrate on getting our weight down, then he would help us with that. It was like, they were just so understanding to a fighter's needs that it made it out to be a really good experience for us. And like everyone on the team and all the coaches, I made friends for life. You know what I mean? It was great.
Now, I know that you just said that you're in Ronda's house. This is correct, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this question once, and then I want you to just answer as honestly as you can, okay?
Right.
What can you steal for us from her house?
Yeah, is there like a poster of her winning or something, or like a belt, maybe?
A belt? We'll take a belt. It's cool.
Like a belt that says champion?
I don't think I want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Look, I'm not being funny, boys, but I'm getting over there really well. I'm just not used to. You know what I mean? I don't have to do much.
I like that.
You have to work your weight a little bit.
I like that Davey has like a system where he's like, by the third time we talk, then I'll consider stealing for you.
Yeah, he's like, you guys don't get too hasty.
So, Davey, take us to next week. You know, you're going to be fighting. Where's your mind? What do you see happening? You know, tell us. There's got to be so many things going through your head right now. Just several days out before the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really focused on the fight. I mean, I've known about this fight for like the last 5 months. You know what I mean? So I've got plenty of time to get them in the head, plenty of time to work on a game plan, on the training, and everything has been really well planned. So, I mean, I just can't wait to go and talk his skills in front of the world. You know, Chris is a tough guy. He's a really good opponent. He's a really nice guy. I got him really well with Chris in the house. You know what I mean? No animosity to him whatsoever.
You have no animosity to Holdsworth at all?
No, I mean, we got on well. I'm sure he'd probably say the same thing. You know what I mean? We're friends in the house, but this is business. It's totally different. And like, I don't need to hate someone to fight them. You know what I mean? This is my job.
Of course.
This is what I do. I'm all there and I try and beat them.
I don't take that away from you, but what if I were to tell you right now that we may have Holdsworth on the line to talk to you?
Yeah, we could easily arrange a meeting. Chris, are you there?
Hey, what's up? Davey, I really like the way, you know, you're talking about me, you know.
That's exactly how Davey talks. This is to a T.
Hold on. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it's gonna be really bad when I have to remix your face next week, DJ Davey G.
My hope is Holdsworth will also hear you doing his. I mean, obviously we're talking to Chris, but if he were to hear this interview, I like that he would attack the DJ side.
I mean, that's probably the first place that you go. I mean, Davey's a good guy, but, you know, this is my destiny, you know?
That sounds good. That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not bad.
When the guests talk me through it, they're just like, that's really good for you. That's good. No one thought you were capable of anything.
It sounds more like Chris than you sound. It sounds more like Chris than what you do sound like me.
Oh, well, okay. Let's not say things we can't back here, Davey. I don't go to your training camp and tell you how to fight, okay? The thing is, this is a hard thing for us, and this is why we had to have you on our podcast. We always say we always root for the person who's been on our podcast, and we've liked both of you guys.
Yeah.
So both of you have now been on the podcast, so we are officially going to go neutral on this one. We just want a really good fight. You know, like I'm sure it will be. We think that, you know, you guys have good skill sets, and we're so stoked to see this happen here. We do lots of Ultimate Fighter coverage, and thank you for making it entertaining by, you know, actually fighting. We'll start there.
Yeah, no lie. You put people on the attack, which is fun to see.
But I would like to hear, while we do have you on this line, like, you know, what are your thoughts of Anthony right now? I know it's got to be weird.
rewatch the episode again. But it sounds like you are coming from a different place of understanding for both yourself and for him. I don't know if you've talked with him. Has any of that transpired?
No, I haven't talked to him. I wouldn't try and contact him. I don't think he'd try and contact me. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not going to hold grudges. You know what I mean? I'm not like that. I mean,
sure.
I'm not fussed. And what's happened. You know what I mean? So we'll just go our separate ways and get on with life. What else can you do?
Fair enough. Now, would you say that going forward, if people are going on the Ultimate Fighter, since you know a little bit about the weight cut and about that kind of experience, what would be your advice to them, given everything that you've seen, just from your own experience and from the people that you saw in the house?
If you're going to go in there, you've got to be 100%. You know what I mean? You can't go in there and eat shit and mess around. It's just not fair on other people. I mean, this is people's lives. This is people's lives at stake. You know what I mean? So if you're going to go in, you've got to be 100% serious about it and really try, to be honest.
That's as good of advice as any. I really, really can't express how excited we are to see your fight. I think it's really cool that you're able to take this all in good stride. And I know even though emotions were very high in that episode, I don't think there's a person out here who would really question your validity of being in this fight. Like, you're a great fighter, man.
Well, good. Thanks, honestly. It does. It means the world to me, that. So I was afraid that people were going to think I was a bitch for crying on TV, you know what I mean? But I think they'll come across all right.
I mean, and Kevin and I talked about this off air, and we were wondering why you were crying. And
we're also Americans, so we like when things are handed to us a little bit more. So the fact that you got a free pass, it was like, what? He should be throwing a party. He should be stoked.
Kevin's actual reaction was just like, I'll take it. It's cool.
Yeah, counts.
Yeah.
But that's also why you're a trained MMA fighter and I do podcasting. There are important reasons why those things happen.
Yeah.
So next time, just fire off some fireworks. That'll be your American response.
Okay, then.
Hey, where can people find you on the internet, Davey?
Sorry?
Where can people find you on Twitter and such if they want to stay in touch with your fight career?
It's Davey Grant MMA. If you want to follow us, and I'm on Team Follow Back as well, so if you follow us, I'll follow them back.
Very cool. And you'll be able to, you're going to be fighting in the finale, so people can see you there. And we're stoked. You and Chris Holdsworth. It's like, as much of a roller coaster as this season of The Ultimate Fighter has been, and it really has been, it was good to see that the finale will at least host a fight that we're all pretty stoked to see. So we're looking forward to it. We cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. Thanks very much.
It has been quite a podcast.
Yeah.
We've got Paul Moran from Open Mat Radio.
Yeah.
We've got James Koh from, 19 Emmy Awards.
I think it's 4, Kevin. I think you just keep adding more Emmys every time.
It feels like a lot based off of his talent. And then finally we end it with Davey Grant. So, there's zero complaints that can be made about this podcast.
That is the most truth. These guys were all great for different reasons. Paul, obviously, my quasi-arch nemesis from Open Mat Radio. Really good, insightful. It was fun to talk 5 grappling with him. And James, I was glad that you guys didn't caught up in a full NBA discussion because I feel that could have happened.
It was so close, and how much he became, like, as soon as he used that basketball metaphor, I was like, I can't even tell him. The first time, I couldn't unleash my full potential because I didn't want to seem like the overwhelming podcast journalist, but the next time he's back on, it's no holds barred. And he'll get that reference. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You stop that.
Okay.
But then, to cap it off, we've got one of the Ultimate Fighters who's going to be fighting in the finale next week. I I don't think either of us were speaking out of turn when we said how much we enjoy both him and Holdsworth. So
No lie,
really
I'm stoked
excited
to see that fight.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great fight.
And with that, it's time for shout-outs.
Yes.
Though, I'll do a quick VerbalTapCast over on YouTube. You can see all the interviews we did at the Jiu-Jitsu Expo and several things coming out that
Subscribe.
are happening all the time. Subscribe. And check us out at Twitter, VerbalTapCast. Follow us, please. Find us on Facebook, VerbalTap MMA Comedy Podcast. And, of course, leave us a rating over there on iTunes. Let us know what's going on. 5-star, obviously, is the rating you're going to want to leave. But, if it's a 4-star, just tell us why. Just say, Kevin, your good looks and charm are too intimidating, so we took away 1 star to keep you in check, and I'll completely understand. That's not a problem. Leave us some comments, like us on that YouTube, and that's pretty much all I got. Thanks to the guys out over at BJJ and MMA Academy and No Concept Jiu-Jitsu. Had a ton of fun while I was in LA over at the Maxters.
Yeah, I did talk with John, and he was just like this week. He's like, "Man, Kevin, he's a great guy." And I was like, "We get it. You guys
Which
like
John?
each other." Evans.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I was like, "You guys need to stop complimenting each other and saying nice things. I'm over it."
We're having a jiu-jitsu bromance. He's phenomenal.
You want to know something really funny? That's exactly what he said. He said, "Let the bromance begin."
It's there. It's happening. I
Yeah.
mean, I have no choice but to respect his game. It's it's formidable. It's all you, ref.
All right, my shout-outs are going to be pretty easy and simple. Let's go ahead and start with Valley Martial Arts Center.
The Maxters. I had a little something to it.
It's one of the worst ones you've done.
Hey, where are you guys going to train? Down to the Maxters?
Oh, God.
Where'd you hear that? Verbal Tap Podcasters?
That's so terrible.
Yeah.
They are always doing great stuff. Also, shout out to Sean Megami for putting on Dream Jiu-Jitsu this week and getting some really big names to come out and watch.
Way to
You
go,
got Eddie
Sean
Bravo,
Megami.
Josh Barnett. God, Michael Bisping even came out with his one good eye to come see what was happening.
That's awesome.
So props to them. We're going to send a shout out to submissionbjj.com. If you guys are at all into the jiu-jitsu world like myself or Kevin, you definitely want to go check out their site. They're just starting and getting a lot of people to try and interact with them. So please go look at their stuff. They're doing some videos. They're trying to talk technique and theory. And as fellow jiu-jitsu folks, we always like to support those who do good work in the community. So give them some love out over there. Let's also go ahead and give a shout out to White Belt Jiu-Jitsu. They're doing some really funny memes, and if you're at all laughing at some of the memes about jiu-jitsu on the internet, chances are they're coming from them. So please give them some support and some of your attention, if you would, and share some of their stuff. Don't ever take it as your own. Share it always. A final big shout-out is going to go to our friends over at 5 Grappling. That is going to be Paul and Diane. You guys were so nice to extend an invitation for us to come check it out. And we'll definitely be talking more about 5 Grappling, I feel, Kevin, in the months to come.
No shit. They're doing it right. Nicely done, 5 Grappling. It really is. It's impressive.
So we hope that you guys enjoyed the constructive criticism we had, and we look forward to posting some of these videos. And also shout-outs to, Keenan Cornelius, who we caught up a little bit out there, Uriah Hall, who we caught out at 5 Grappling, our friends over at Jits Magazine, you name it, man. We've got so many effing friends now. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, list is getting too large, but that's going to do it for us tonight over here at Verbal Tap. I'm Kevin. Thanks for listening.
Good night and good fight.